Perseverance model 1 and 2. Particular one has a particular function that was intended for dynamic movement. Let's get right into it. It was a daunting task, at the moment even bordering on the cusp of impossible. Yet with time there is one thing that my people have always thrived for, and that is perseverance. That was his name before anything was set into stone back in 2020. For if I were to make a toy, one that would be the very lifeblood to carry the torch for generations to come, perseverance had to be its name, but also in its very design. Now hold on, dear viewer. I will be showing that new Terex set soon. Don't think we won't be talking about that thumbnail. Now, where was I? Oh, I remember. In December of 2020, I started off by launching a contest, one where the contestant might win a chance to have their character within the world of Ascending Depths. I would also use this opportunity to start with some initial artwork for the design language, one that blends both what people may want to see with what I wanted to achieve. During this time, it was already 2021 and I began creating molds, elements, and testing various materials, seeing what worked and what didn't. Once determining what would be the most optimal resource on this planet, I began processing and refining recyclable plastics. But most importantly, I didn't find the cost-efficient ways for making copies for the parts in rapid succession. The first prototype to be made with custom elements would soon roll out by November 23rd of 2021. Though rough was the Terex design, it revealed the many flaws with the current system, or lack thereof. The cycle will continue in 2022 by taking a new shape. With the equipment and the machinery now fully built, I began working on creating a new building system. One that would allow flexibility with a small parts catalog, but also homing down on what was the most ideal way to make molds. I would use such limitations as my strength when it came to working on flexible building system, of which at the time didn't have a name. Terex was revamped once more, unveiled by April 4th of 2022, this time rocking not only a new color scheme, but also original elements capable of additional configurations. Terex introduced a new play feature which carried over from the initial Perseverance model. It was one where he could hurl projectiles instead of one that would be traditionally fired from a handheld device. But upon further research into the elements I was using, I learned that even those elements wouldn't be sufficient quick multiplication for manufacturing. So I looked through the inventory of the elements I had created, going back to the drawing board, sadly disappointed. Keeping only a few elements and connection points, I began designing a new aesthetic. One that broke down the creature and character body shapes down to their basic components, and from the ground up, creating something fully unique. I I examined carefully what was the key factors needing in retaining the surface detailing to allow for both complexity and smooth flat surfaces. It all began by drawing several spheres and detailing them in what expresses the perfect balance between the different textures. After deep contemplation over the many agreeably marbles I have doodled, I settled down on one that was the most suitable. Next came the conversion of some of the elements I have designed into the new formula, creating a new element that can act as a tail, torso, foot, hand, arm, head, and more. The shape came to be and would further go into a new name. The Tailored Reconstructible Intuitive Building System, or TRIBS for short, an acronym coined by a fan and a dear friend after yours truly. It was now 2023, and the calmness now persisted in knowing that an art direction was created. As such, characters like Voa, Take It to the Skies, her flames paying homage to the red and blue stripes of the Puerto Rican flag, to Huzu, the agile yet wise chameleon, getting ready to play his next song, UH1 exploring the furthest reaches of the mysterious island, and Anua, proud like the croquis he was designed after. These preliminary artworks helped lay down what could be done with the system with enough elements, but also what new parts would need to be made to make these designs possible. Yet Terex, despite everything, was still a miss. Almost as if he disappeared into the background. Okay, well, not exactly. I wasn't sure where to put this design in the script, but back in late 2022, there was another design made known as the Mark II. Terex would have been a lot smaller than the previous versions of him, yet after the revelation of the incompatibility the current system at the time had, rapid injection molding, he only made it into the resin model form. The truth was, the character Terex, who was originally supposed to be the wise and philosophical teacher of Onu City, became a burden. Never before has a character of mine been so resilient and uncooperative. The second I thought I've found something that worked, Terex said no. This Astrolic was toying with me, taunting me for not knowing any better. Some may say that he was cursed from the beginning, trying to design a figure without any clear aesthetic, but in all honesty, it was a mockery. This character wanted to be a form that suited them the most, not just blank character template number 1. He wanted more, and so I gave it to him. Once animated designs were being created in the year of 2024, an Astrolic was being created. Not Terex, but Talia. With a stencil and a paper while sitting in a hospital, I began creating an OC of a dear fan. I wish their character paved the way for the general feel of how an Astrolic would look like in fiction. As their species as a whole, no thanks to Terex, kept changing the design altogether. After I was back home safe and sound, I drew Terex because I knew I would prefer to be in the comfort of my own residence, just in case he decided to give me a hard time. And on October 15th, 2024, he came into being. At the end, this little man, once everything reached the final stages of development, needed to reflect his journey. I began by picking the colors blue, orange, and light purple, representing how loud and vocal of a character he is, while rocking out in those leg warmers. Added with a proud expression for all the trouble he inadvertently caused when making him, he also shows how appreciative at the end for the form he has now. But of course, no video would be the same without some script-free commentary. And what better way to do that then showcase Terex himself. So, hello fellow compatriots, it is I, Tributron, and today we're going to be looking at the little gremlin himself that has been traumatizing me for years. This was the polybag. And this looks nothing like a polybag. You're probably wondering why that is. And I'm glad that you asked, because there is a key thing as to why that is the case. Because of this new building system. Now, when working on Terex, before I go ahead and showcase this model, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the elements of Terex, you know, and how he came to be, basically. It's ball and sockets, the cusp of everything for this building system. It is basically the lifeblood that makes the building systems what it is, especially for Technic action figures. Like, at the end of the day, it's always these ball and sockets. And, unfortunately, it became the biggest problem. These ball and sockets are big, which negatively affected the scaling. So I wanted to do something like very similar to the OG figures. That was the plan from the beginning, ever since like 2020. I wanted to focus on this aesthetic and design. However, there's one issue. It's not as flexible, and one of the biggest contributing factors, I think, that led to Bionicle's downfall was the cost of molds. And so they tried to negate that with Generation 2 when they made this. So CCBS, Creature and Character Building System, which was introduced by Hero Factory in 2.0 specifically. And this system is pretty versatile. It still relies on Technic, which is very key and essential when you're going to be making a Technic action figure. It still holds true to that. But there is some gaps. You know, even for this guy, which is probably, in my biased opinion, one of the best models they have ever made. TRIPS, the Tailored Reconstructible Intuitive Building System. This guy, oh my gosh, this guy. It's an amazing model, but I'm not posing him. There's a reason why I'm not posing him. That's why he's static. This is a display model. This is a prototype. So this is a prototype designed for display, not for play. But when the final sets do come out, it will be designed for play. Now, if you may have noticed, this thing, it doesn't look like a Matoran. It's bigger than a Matoran, but it's a Matoran. Which means the actual bigger toys that you're going to be seeing that are supposed to be like your Toa equivalent are going to be a lot bigger. Like about like this tall. And then if you get a Titan, they might be a little bit bigger. But due to the flexibility of this new building system, as you can see, like it has the same like piston design nature. It has a smoothness design, but also the most important thing, even though it has a lot of dynamic shaping, it's flat. So you can have it stand. Let me grab my phone here. It can stand. It's now a foot. You put it on a flat surface, it's now a foot. You want it as a leg, it's now a leg. You want it as an arm, it's now an arm. You want it as a tail, you could probably even use it as a head if you really wanted to, and then you would put the armor attachments. Now, the thing about the armor attachments, I didn't want to do the same song and dance as using pins or axles or like rod connections like CCBS tends to do. But I really like pin and axle connections, which is why you see the pinholes on this model and all throughout here. So it uses the pin and axles for a lot of the attachment points throughout this model. Like it uses a lot of pin and axles. And as you can see, like the foot, it's fully posable, which is nice. I can pose the foot just fine. That's not an issue. But again, that's just these guys. It's a foot now, and you put the armor detailings all over it. And that's another thing. Armor detailings are also masks, because the biggest issue that I've had, the masks are the most important thing. They're the biggest collectible item as well, but they can take up a lot of space. A lot of builders like to repurpose the masks for a lot of cosmetic detailing in their builds and so forth, and I recognize that. It's like, hey, you're using a lot of clever techniques to go ahead and try to use that. And I'll admit, I have used Kanohi for a lot of the aesthetic detailings. So I wanted to make a balance where masks are also armor. So a mask is armor. So what that means is this piece is a mask, this is a mask, this is a mask. It may not look like it, but if you flip it upside down, then it becomes a mask. A lot of possibilities. Now, the biggest question that you all might have is, okay, what are we going to be seeing the toys? Like, are there going to be more sets in the works? Yes, more sets are coming out. I'm designing them as I speak. However, due to the size of these guys, it's going to be actually kind of expensive to manufacture all of them, especially at the capacity that I am right now. So what you're going to be seeing is a sub-theme that I might be working on. Try to go ahead and build up enough sales so that I can start making more of these. Now, even though this is clearly 3D printed, but they'll be injection molded. All the pieces that I'm making will be injection molded. They will be. So you're going to be seeing that in the near future. All these parts, they're going to be injection molded. Buildable action figures using recyclable plastics. Yeah, so every single time you make a purchase, you're reducing waste on the planet. Effectively. It's part of my Go Green initiative. So if you want to go ahead and support my work, you want to be sure to go ahead on Patreon. I also have a coffee if you want to go ahead and check that out. And also, I'm selling some brain stocks. Metro brain stocks over at ascendingdevs.etsy.com. If you want to go ahead and check that out, I will be greatly appreciative if you did do that. But, yeah, that is all for now. I hope you all enjoy, and like always, I'll see you in the next cycle of creativity. Coming this year, sometime soon. Bye, guys.